Let me say something that's going to piss a lot of people off. Working hard will not get you what you want, and following your passion will not lead to a happy life. And if you've been grinding for years and your life hasn't moved, it's not because you're lazy. It's because you picked a structure that can't pay you back. Most people were sold the same lie, just wrapped in different words. If you try hard enough, it will work out. If you care enough, it will work out. Consistency, passion, different slogans, same assumption. That reality eventually bends to effort, but it doesn't. Reality responds to structure, not force. Let me define what I mean by structure, because this is where everything clicks. Structure is how effort converts into outcomes. It's what you get paid for. It's what scales. It's what compounds and what you can actually own. If that conversion is broken, then effort will not save you. It will just trap you faster. Here's the mistake underneath everything. People think that effort is causal. It isn't. Effort is an amplifier, which means that it makes whatever you're already doing louder. If what you're doing is right, then effort helps. But if what you're doing is wrong, then effort will destroy you. Think about it like this. Shouting into a broken microphone does not make the message clearer. It makes the distortion louder. Pedaling harder on a stationary bike does not move you further. It just makes you sweat in the same spot. And pouring more water into a leaking bucket doesn't fill it. It just makes you waste water faster. That's what most people's lives look like. High effort, high emotion, and zero movement. Now let's stop being abstract and talk about what this looks like in the real world. Let's imagine two men, same age, same intelligence, same willingness to work, but different structures, and as a result, different lives. Ethan is 24. Ethan likes ideas, writing, analysis, and creative output. He's thoughtful, intelligent, and good with words. Ethan, like many other people, follows the advice. He builds a personal brand. He writes essays, he does strategy work, and he freelances as a consultant and a creator. Ethan sells his thinking, his insight, his output, and his time. He shows up every single day. He is consistent for a decade. By the book, Ethan does everything right. And by 30 years old, Ethan is good. Not average, like actually good. Here's Ethan's life at 35 years old. He charges his clients per project or per month. Clients negotiate, work comes in cycles. When he's working, he's busy, he's respected, and he's frankly exhausted. And when his work slows, his income drops and his anxiety spikes. He checks Stripe and email like a nervous wreck. One quiet week and his brain goes dark. He does earn decent money in the good years, but every year resets. There's no equity, no ownership, and no compounding. The link between time and money is never broken. And if Ethan stops producing, everything stops. Could Ethan raise his prices? Sure. But he's still selling his time into a market where replacement is always just one click away. Ethan isn't broke, but he's fragile. And after 10 years of consistency, his ceiling still looks the same. Now let's consider Marcus. He's also 24 years old, except Marcus doesn't give a shit about meaningful work. And he's noticed something boring but true. Businesses are willing to pay obscene money to people who move revenue. And as a result, Marcus chooses something unsexy and specific. He decides to go into B2B sales for a software company. Not a startup fantasy and not some cold call hellhole, just a boring company selling a boring product with strong profit margins. His job is simple. He talks to buyers, he understands their budgets, and he closes deals. Marcus is average. He's not charismatic, he's not obsessed, he's certainly not passionate, and he doesn't grind 80-hour weeks. He works normal hours, he learns slowly, and he gets competent. Here's where the structure starts to matter. Marcus's pay is tied to deal size, not hours. That means in year 1, there's nothing special. Year 3, he starts to make some decent commissions. But by year 5, a few big deals completely change his income profile. By 32 years old, Marcus earns more in 1 quarter than Ethan in an entire year. Not every year, but often enough to create a meaningful surplus. By 35 years old, Marcus has invested capital. He owns equity in small deals, and he can fund risk without panic. Marcus isn't famous, but Marcus is dangerous because he has options. If Marcus has a bad quarter, he's annoyed. If Ethan has a bad quarter, he's scared. That's the whole difference. And now let's zoom out. Ethan worked harder than Marcus. Ethan cared more than Marcus. And Ethan was more passionate than Marcus. But Ethan lost. Not because he was weaker, but because Ethan picked a structure where effort maintains income and consistency maintains survival. And Marcus, on the other hand, picked a structure where effort compounds and surplus begins to appear without obsession. Now, let's zoom out even further and forget about Ethan and Marcus as individuals. Let's think in terms of funnels. If you take 100 men and drop them into Ethan's structure, selling time, selling taste, and selling output with no ownership, most of them will end up exactly where Ethan ends up. Busy, skilled, anxious, and capped. A few of them will do okay, and one or two of them will break out completely and become the stories that everybody points to. But let's be clear, the median outcome here is stagnation. And now let's take 100 men and let's drop them into Marcus's structure, where effort ties to revenue, ownership, and leverage. Most of these men don't become rich, and most of them aren't exceptional. But most of them do end up calmer, they end up more solvent, with more financial surplus, and with better options. The median outcome for these men is progress. And that's not motivation, it's probability. And here's the part that people hate the most. By his mid-30s, Marcus actually enjoys what he does. Not because sales is beautiful or because it's aligned with his soul, but because he's calm, he's solvent, and he's in control. It's very hard for a human to be miserable when they are autonomous, competent, and not under any immediate financial threat. Misery thrives in fragility, but not in surplus. And this is why consistency and passion fail, for the same underlying reason. Consistency without leverage traps you quietly, and passion without leverage traps you emotionally. One of them simply wastes your time, and the other hijacks your identity. But both of them ultimately fail because they represent effort applied to the wrong structure. Effort does not create outcomes. Structure creates outcomes. Effort only decides how long you're going to stay exposed to the structure that you chose. If that structure is capped, effort just makes you a more obedient prisoner. It boils down to this. If you apply effort and consistency to a low leverage structure, the median outcome is stagnation. And if you apply even mediocre effort to a high leverage structure, the median outcome is surplus. And surplus creates enjoyment. And that's the whole point. Structure first, everything else is noise.